There's a majesty you experience standing under a tornado before it's about to strike. A stillness so absolute that it locks everything in place, even the atoms of the air that surround you. I was 15. That storm system would kill a dozen people and destroy thousands of homes. But from where I stood outside, in the middle of a field, standing directly below its eye as it began to take shape, it was too big to comprehend, let alone fear. I just watched. That moment stayed with me. Years later, foreseeing a world of more and bigger storms drove me to a career in climate change, specializing in real estate, one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas on the planet. For 16 years, I was a practitioner greening the built environment at city scale in countries around the world, until I found myself leading a sustainability strategy at one of the world's most innovative companies. My team had just been nominated for another industry award. I was writing the acceptance speech, counting up all the millions of tons of greenhouse gas that they had mitigated. And then I saw it. Since 2010, the year our firm had committed to renewable energy, our company's emissions had grown by 15 times. For every 1 million tons of carbon that my team was mitigating, our company's relentless pursuit of growth was pumping another 16 million tons into the atmosphere, and I was accepting an award for it. I realized that if the world's most innovative company, with the most aggressive climate targets and near infinite access to capital, wasn't bending the curve, what path were we really on? What did that mean for my newborn son? Seeking answers brought me here. Now I'm a Stanford researcher. I'm still a real estate guy. It's what I know best. Real estate's the largest asset class on earth. Buildings are where we spend 90% of our time. Real estate is where we live, where we work, where we build equity. And it's directly exposed to extreme weather events. A deeper understanding of the risk of that exposure should paint a clearer picture of a warming world. And since pricing is how we measure and manage every other type of risk in real estate, my research sought to answer 3 questions. Is climate risk priced into real estate? Should it be? And can it be? The answers were unanimous. The risk is not priced in. It should be, but it can't be. Not today. You see, it turns out that the complex ecosystem of real estate has evolved into a structure that absolves its participants of accountability and punishes anyone who moves first. Investors will say, I can't price that risk. Otherwise, I'll lose every bid. And besides, it's the lender's job to underwrite systemic risk. The lender says, hey, we only price risk that we can't otherwise cover. It's the insurer's job to cover that risk. The insurer says, hey, we only price 12 months of risk. And besides, regulators won't let us price to actual risk levels. And the regulator says, hey, we have to control for pricing. Otherwise, insurance gets too expensive and no one can afford housing. Everyone in the chain is doing their job. Everyone is rational. No one is accountable. The risk falls through every hand. I spoke with this one fund manager that I've known for years. His fund holds enough real estate that thousands of people depend on his properties. He and I worked through the research completely on the same page, like finishing each other's sentences, and he told me he was incredibly worried. So worried that he had just purchased a house for his family in a part of Canada expected to be one of the safest places on the planet. An actual apocalypse compound. I said, so what are you doing about your fund? And he looked at me incredulous, and with utter sincerity, he asked, what do you mean? Insurance will cover it. Insurance will cover it. I want you to hold on to that sentence. Have you heard it before? Yeah. Maybe not those exact words, but that exact sentiment. It's what people said about mortgage-backed securities in 2007. It's what people always say right before a correction, that someone else is covering this risk. That's the thread my research hoped to find, a structural issue. You see, my research sought to answer 3 questions, but there's a 4th. What happens when climate risk is finally priced? Because it will be. The gap between the price of risk and reality always closes. The only question is speed. Does it happen gradually or all at once, like it did in 2008? Already 6% of U.S. counties are insurance-distressed markets, homeowners and property owners facing premiums they can't afford if they can get coverage at all, at risk of violating the terms of their mortgages and losing their properties if they don't act. Remember, it only took 5% of this country's housing stock being mispriced to trigger a wave of defaults that caused a towering tsunami of the global financial crisis too big for most people to comprehend, let alone fear. They just watched. But some people saw that threat and prepared. And my research found an exception too. One insurance company operating outside the structure that constrains everybody else, no one telling them what they can and cannot price, though they price based on reality. They charge 55% more for properties that aren't fire hardened. And on January 31st, 2025, when the smoke from the devastating LA fires finally cleared, this company surveyed the damage and found that out of 13 portfolios, only 1 property was lost. One company, pricing honestly, survived. Their customers, nudged by pricing to adopt best practice, also survived. We have the technology, we have the data, we can manage this risk. What we don't have is a structure that lets the rest of the system do what that one company did. But that can be built. And building is a path. That fund manager chose a different path, his apocalypse plan in Canada. But one day, living in that siloed compound, he'll realize his safety depends on something else. Maybe a hospital? A hospital depends on a tax base. A tax base depends on a community. You see, that fund manager made a mistake thinking that safety was a place you find on a map. But a place is only as safe as the community calling it home. I came to Stanford to answer a question for my son. Where in a warming world is safe? I found the answers. I know which places the models say are most safe. I could move my son there tomorrow, but I would be making the same mistake as that fund manager. So instead, I'm building solutions to that risk for communities with economics that are honest, so that when the correction arrives, fewer people get wiped out. My son's name is Emerson. He's 2 years old. By the time he needs his first house, the solutions will need to be in place. The opportunity to build those solutions are now. The window for that better future is today. If you're interested in building too, come find me. Thank you.